The alley reeked of stale beer and bad intentions. 5 men surrounded her, backing her against the wall with hungry eyes and predatory smiles. The leader reached for her blouse, tearing fabric as laughter echoed off brick walls. Their mockery died instantly when they saw her back. Where they expected vulnerability, they found a battlefield etched in scar tissue. The tattoo beneath those scars made the biggest man stumble backward, whispering a name they all recognized with sudden terror. The hunted had become the hunter, and the night had only just begun. From which city in the world are you watching this video today? If you enjoyed this story, consider subscribing for more untold tales of strength hidden in plain sight. Nyala Vasek, 38, stood alone in the exhibition hall, her fingers tracing the glass case containing ancient Mesopotamian battle axes. The museum had emptied an hour ago, but as the new curator of military artifacts, she had been granted after-hours access by director Garrick Thornfield. The soft overhead lights cast her reflection against the glass, highlighting her angular features and the precise way she held herself, even when she thought no one was watching. The Callista Museum of Modern Art was renowned for its diverse collections, but the upcoming exhibition on The Art of Warfare Through History was Nyala's personal project. For 3 months since joining the staff, she had maintained a quiet, professional demeanor that revealed little about her past. Her colleagues knew only what her impeccable references stated: an academic background in military history, previous curatorial experience at smaller institutions, and a keen eye for authentic artifacts. "Still here, Ms. Vasek?" Garrick's voice echoed across the marble floor. "Dedication is admirable, but even curators need rest." Nyala straightened, smoothing her high-necked blouse despite the summer heat that permeated even the climate-controlled building. "Just finalizing the arrangement for tomorrow's donor preview," she replied, her voice measured and calm. Garrick approached, studying her work. "Your insights on warfare artifacts are remarkably precise, almost as if you have handled such weapons yourself." "Research," she replied simply, her accent difficult to place. "History speaks through objects if you listen carefully enough." "Well, our donors certainly listened during your presentation this afternoon, though I noticed you tensed when Admiral Blackwood made that comment about armchair historians." A flicker of something, anger, pain, crossed her face before disappearing. "Professional pride, nothing more." Garrick nodded, unconvinced. "The security system arms automatically at midnight. Do not stay too late." After his footsteps faded, Nyala moved with sudden purpose. She checked the security camera angles with a practiced eye, noted the guard rotation schedule posted by the staff entrance, and methodically completed a circuit of the exhibition hall. Anyone watching might have thought she was simply being thorough in her curatorial duties, but her gaze lingered too long on security sensors, escape routes, and blind spots in the camera coverage. When she was certain she was alone, she slipped into the bathroom with a small duffel bag she had stored earlier behind a maintenance panel. Inside the stall, she changed quickly. Dark tactical clothing replacing her conservative attire. From a hidden compartment in her bag, she removed an encrypted phone displaying a message. "Echelon confirmed at Obsidian tonight. Final evidence accessible. Window, 3 hours." She studied her reflection in the mirror, shoulders squaring almost imperceptibly. For 3 years, she had lived as Nyala Vasek, constructing a careful cover identity that would position her close to powerful people with connections to the Sardanix family. The museum job had been perfect, respectable, believable, and offering access to social circles where information flowed freely among those who believed themselves untouchable. Moving with practiced efficiency, she slipped through the service entrance and disappeared into the night, heading toward the notorious Blackstone district where the city's underground power brokers conducted their business. Her steps were silent, her posture changed, no longer the reserved curator, but something altogether more dangerous. The transformation was complete by the time she reached the outskirts of the district. Here, the city's gleaming veneer gave way to a more honest corruption. Exclusive clubs and restaurants served as fronts for money laundering operations, while private security firms provided muscle for those wealthy enough to afford protection outside official channels. The Obsidian stood at the heart of it all, a converted warehouse with a sleek obsidian glass facade that reflected the city lights in distorted patterns. A line of hopeful patrons stretched down the block, but Nyala approached a side entrance where a hulking doorman checked a tablet. "Mira," she said, using her cover name, "I have information for Corvin." The doorman's eyes flicked over her, clearly assessing threat level, before he nodded and stepped aside. Inside, the club pulsed with energy, strobe lights cutting through artificial fog, while the wealthy and connected danced alongside beautiful people whose presence had been purchased for the evening. Nyala navigated through the crowd with practiced ease, her eyes constantly scanning. 3 years of deep cover work were about to culminate in tonight's mission. 3 years since the ambush that had left her unit massacred and her body mapped with scars. 3 years of hunting the Sardonyx family from within. In the VIP section, elevated above the main floor, Corvin Sardonyx, 32, lounged on a leather couch, his father's signet ring gleaming as he gestured to his lieutenants. Heir to the family's legitimate business empire and its criminal enterprises, Corvin embraced the public image of a charming playboy while privately continuing his father's ruthless expansion. Beside him sat Lazarus Thorne, 40s, the family's security chief, a former military contractor with dead eyes and a reputation for efficiency. He was the first to notice Nyala's approach, whispering something in Corvin's ear while staring directly at her. "Corvin," she greeted him, voice pitched differently than her museum persona. "I have the police rotation schedules you requested." Corvin's smile did not reach his eyes. "Punctual as always, Mira. Join us. We were just discussing business opportunities." She slipped into the booth, positioning herself where she could observe the entire room while remaining close enough to Corvin to hear any conversation. This was the closest she had gotten to the inner circle, a position earned through months of providing accurate but carefully curated information to the Sardonyx organization. The waterfront development, Corvin continued to his associates, deliberately including her in the conversation, has hit some regulatory snags. Fortunately, Councilman Drovak remains receptive to financial incentives. Nyala listened while maintaining her cover, mentally recording details. The councilman's name was New, another connection in the corruption network she was mapping. Underneath the table, her phone silently captured the conversation. Lazarus continued watching her, brow furrowed. "Have we met before?" "Outside the club?" "I doubt it," Nyala replied coolly. "I keep a low profile." "You move differently than most people," he persisted. "Balanced, aware, like military." The VIP booth fell silent. Corvin leaned forward, his casual demeanor shifting. "You know, Lazarus has excellent instincts, and we have had concerns about infiltration lately." He stood, towering over her. "I think it is time for a loyalty check." Before she could react, 2 guards gripped her arms firmly, not enough to cause a scene in the crowded club, but with clear intent. Corvin led the way through a service door, down a corridor, and out into the alley behind the club. The night air carried the scent of garbage and distant rain. Corvin's entourage formed a semicircle, trapping Nyala against the brick wall. The security cameras she had noted on previous reconnaissance were conveniently angled away from this particular section, a deliberate blind spot for private business. "Standard procedure," Corvin explained with false courtesy. "We need to check for wires. Remove your top." Nyala remained still, calculating her options. The operation was compromised, but she could still salvage the primary objective if she maintained cover long enough to transmit the evidence she had gathered. The encrypted phone in her pocket was seconds away from completing its upload to a secure server. "That is not happening," she stated flatly. One of the enforcers laughed. "She is shy, boss." "Or hiding something," Lazarus suggested, his hand resting on his concealed weapon. Corvin stepped closer, the facade of civility dropping entirely. "You came to us, remember? Offered information, asked to work with our organization. Now you are refusing a simple security measure?" His fingers closed around the fabric of her blouse. "What are you hiding, Mira?" "Do not," she warned, voice deadly quiet. The warning was ignored. With a sharp movement, Corvin tore the fabric from her shoulder, exposing her back to the alley's dim light. The laughter died instantly. Lazarus staggered backward, recognition dawning in his eyes. Holy God! Mapped across her skin was a network of horrific scars. Bullet wounds, knife slashes, burn marks, the topography of survival written in flesh. But what silenced them completely was the distinctive tattoo partially visible beneath the scars. the insignia of the Ghost Battalion, an elite special forces unit presumed wiped out in a classified operation 3 years ago. Phantom 6, Lazarus whispered, using her operational call sign. You are supposed to be dead. The enforcers released her arms and stepped away, suddenly aware of exactly who they had cornered. The Ghost Battalion had been legendary even among military contractors, a unit sent into situations deemed impossible, with a perfect operational record until their sudden disappearance during a classified mission. Corvin, desperate to maintain control, forced a laugh. So, you have got some impressive scars. Does not change. His words cut off as Nyala moved with blinding speed, disarming 2 men before anyone could register what was happening. She did not attack Corvin, but instead held up her phone, playing an audio recording that she had spent years obtaining. The Ghost Battalion has evidence on our operation. They cannot leave that compound alive. I want confirmation of elimination for all 12 operatives. No witnesses, no survivors. The voice belonged to Magnus Sardonyx, Corvin's father. 3 years, Nyala said, her curator's voice and her operative's voice now merged into something terrifying in its calm. 3 years I have been gathering evidence against your family. Tonight was the final piece. In the distance, sirens began to wail, the police raid she had orchestrated already in motion. Corvin's face drained of color as his father's voice played from the phone. The recording continued, detailing the ambush that had decimated Nyala's unit, dates, coordinates, and payment details that connected directly to the Sardonyx family's offshore accounts. You have no idea what you have done, Corvin whispered, his earlier confidence evaporating. The sirens grew louder, multiple vehicles approaching from different directions. Nyala kept her position against the wall, watching as panic spread through the group. The enforcers looked to Corvin for direction, but he seemed frozen, processing the implications of what was happening. Lazarus, ever the professional, recovered first. Boss, we need to move, now. He grabbed Corvin's arm, pulling him toward a concealed door further down the alley. Emergency extraction protocol. As they turned to flee, Nyala spoke calmly. The evidence has already been transmitted to federal authorities. Every account, every connection, every crime. It is over, Corvin. Lazarus shoved Corvin through the door, then paused to look back at Nyala. You should have stayed dead, Phantom. With that, he disappeared into the darkness, leaving the enforcers to fend for themselves as police cars screeched to a halt at both ends of the alley. Officers poured in with weapons drawn, shouting commands. Nyala raised her hands slowly, making no sudden movements as the enforcers were forced to the ground and handcuffed. She had arranged this raid meticulously, coordinating with a detective who had been investigating the Sardonyx family for years without sufficient evidence to move against them. Detective Zephyr Reinhard, 45, approached her, holstering his weapon when he recognized her from their previous confidential meetings. Looks like your intel was solid. We have teams hitting all the locations simultaneously. Magnus, she asked, in custody at his estate. Though from what I am hearing, his son was not there. Nyala nodded, having expected as much. Corvin would activate emergency protocols, accessing hidden resources and escape routes. But with the evidence she had gathered, his options would be severely limited. You need medical attention, Zephyr noted, gesturing to her torn clothing and the scars now partially visible. I need to make sure the evidence is secure first, she countered. The case files, the financial records, the witness statements, everything. Zephyr studied her with newfound respect. You know, when you first approached me 6 months ago, I thought you were either crazy or working for them. I have never been happier to be wrong. He draped his jacket over her shoulders. Come on. We will get your statement at headquarters where it is secure. The next several hours passed in a blur of activity. Nyala was escorted to the Central Police Headquarters, where she provided detailed statements about the evidence she had gathered. Officers and federal agents moved with urgent purpose around them, as reports came in from raids across the city. The Sardonyx organization had tentacles in everything, from construction to pharmaceuticals, with blackmail material on half the city's officials. By dawn, Nyala sat in an interrogation room that had been repurposed as a temporary office, watching as Detective Reinhardt shuffled through mountains of evidence on his desk. Financial records, voice recordings, weapons shipment manifests, enough to dismantle the Sardonyx empire completely. This is unprecedented, Zephyr admitted, running a hand through his thinning hair. Magnus Sardonyx and 5 lieutenants in custody. 3 city council members implicated, a judge, 2 police captains. He shook his head in disbelief. Though Corvin escaped during the initial raid, witness places him and Lazarus boarding a private helicopter from a secondary location. He will not get far, Nyala stated with quiet certainty. Zephyr studied her across the desk. The police department sweatshirt she now wore in place of her torn blouse seemed at odds with her precise posture and vigilant eyes. You know, there is nothing in our database about Aniela Vasek, yet you orchestrated the most successful organized crime takedown in this city's history. He leaned forward. Who are you really? The door opened before she could respond. A woman in a crisp federal suit entered, placing a classified folder on the desk. Detective, I need the room. Zephyr glanced between them, then at the federal credentials presented to him. Agent Marchand, this is my investigation. Was your investigation, Brielle Marchand corrected firmly. This case has been escalated. National security implications. You will be fully credited for your work, detective, but I need to speak with your witness alone. After Zephyr reluctantly left, closing the door behind him with a pointed look at Nyala, Agent Marchand turned to face her. To Nyala's surprise, Brielle stood at attention and delivered a formal salute. Captain Vasek, the government disavowed Ghost Battalion, left you all for dead. We were, Nyala responded simply. Brielle lowered her hand, studying Nyala with a mixture of respect and caution. Yet, here you are, deep cover for 3 years, gathering evidence against the people who orchestrated your unit's massacre, without support, without backup. She opened the folder, revealing photographs of Nyala's former unit members. The Joint Chiefs are reassessing their position on Ghost Battalion. Meaning reinstatement if you want it, resources to finish hunting Corvin Sardonyx, a chance to complete your mission officially. Nyala turned to the window, seeing her reflection, both the curator she had become and the soldier she had been. When Ghost Battalion had been ambushed during what should have been a routine intelligence-gathering operation, their existence had been promptly classified and erased from official records. The few survivors had been left to fend for themselves, abandoned by the very government they had served with distinction. My unit deserves recognition, Nyala said finally, official acknowledgement of what happened. Already in motion, Brielle confirmed, turning a page in the folder to reveal new documents, executive orders, declassification notices, and formal commendations. And the others? The 2 who survived with you? For the first time since the operation began, Nyala smiled. They will find me when it is safe. Brielle nodded, unsurprised. We suspected you were not working alone. The operation was too complex, too comprehensive for a single operator, even one with your training. She closed the folder. The official story for the public and press will be that an anonymous whistleblower provided evidence that allowed law enforcement to dismantle the Sardonyx organization. Your involvement remains classified. And my cover identity remains intact, if you wish. The museum position was legitimate after all, though I imagine curatorial work might seem somewhat tame after this. Nyala considered this. The museum had been a means to an end initially, but she had found unexpected peace in the quiet halls surrounded by history. I would like to keep it, at least for now. Understood. We will provide protection until Corvin is apprehended. Brielle hesitated, then asked, What exactly did you find that made the Sardonyx family so dangerous to national security? The briefing mentioned weapons shipments, but the details were sparse. It was never just about weapons, Nyala explained. Magnus Sardonyx was building a private military force using stolen advanced technology and blackmailed officials. My unit discovered evidence of prototype weapons testing on the night we were ambushed. What the Sardonyx family planned goes far beyond organized crime. They were positioning to sell military capabilities to hostile foreign interests. Brielle's expression grew grim. That explains the urgency from above. We will need a full debrief once you have rested. There will be time for rest when Corvin is found, Nyala countered, rising to her feet. He has contingency plans, resources we have not identified yet. We have alerts at every airport, seaport, and border crossing. His accounts are frozen, his known associates under surveillance. That will not be enough, Nyala insisted. Lazarus Thorne is with him, former special operations himself before he went private. They have prepared for this scenario. Brielle studied her for a moment, then made a decision. Very well, I will arrange for you to join the task force tracking them. She extended her hand. Welcome back to the land of the living, Captain. The next few weeks passed in a blur of activity as Nyala straddled two worlds. By day, she maintained her cover at the museum, arranging exhibits and conducting tours while quietly watching for any sign of Corvin's countermove. By night, she worked with federal agents, tracking financial transactions and following leads that spanned multiple countries. The case against Magnus Sardonyx grew stronger with each passing day, as former associates rushed to cooperate in exchange for leniency. The extent of the corruption he had fostered became clear. Judges, police officers, politicians, all compromised through a combination of bribery and blackmail. Yet, Corvin remained elusive, seemingly vanishing despite the resources dedicated to finding him. Reports placed him in a dozen different countries, each lead dissolving upon investigation. Lazarus Thorne's expertise in evasion tactics was evident in the false trails and misdirection. 4 months into the manhunt, Nyala was reviewing security footage in her office at the museum when Garrick Thornfield knocked on her door. Ms. Vasek, I have a proposition for you, the director said, his excitement evident. The board has approved a special exhibition based on recently declassified military operations. Given your expertise, we would like you to curate it. Nyala looked up sharply. What operations specifically? Something called Ghost Battalion, Garrick replied, missing the momentary tension in her shoulders. Apparently, it was an elite special forces unit that operated under complete secrecy until recently. The Department of Defense is releasing materials for public education, photographs, mission reports, personal effects of the fallen soldiers. They specifically requested our museum and you by name. She kept her expression neutral, even as her mind raced. This was Brielle's doing, part of the promised recognition for her unit. When would this exhibition open? 2 months from now, with a special memorial service for the fallen operators on opening night. High-ranking military officials will attend. He paused, studying her. Is something wrong? No, Nyala replied carefully. I am just surprised by the timing. It is an honor to be selected. As Garrick left, Nyala turned back to her computer, thoughts swirling. The exhibition would be high profile, covered by media, attended by military and government officials, a perfect target for someone seeking revenge. Corvin Sardonyx would not be able to resist. The exhibition consumed Nyala's waking hours for the next 8 weeks. Working with materials provided by the Department of Defense, she curated a narrative that honored her fallen comrades while revealing the truth of their final mission. Photographs of the 12 operators were displayed prominently, their service records and commendations laid bare for public recognition after years of official denial. Nyala moved through the exhibition space with practiced efficiency, directing staff as they positioned display cases containing recovered equipment, medals, and personal effects. Each item represented a piece of her past, carefully preserved, and now presented with the dignity her unit deserved. The lighting needs adjustment on the memorial wall, she instructed a technician. Each photograph should be individually illuminated. As the technician made the corrections, Nyala paused before the image of Lieutenant Callista Reeves, her closest friend within the unit. They had trained together, fought side by side through impossible missions, and on that final night, it was Callista who had dragged Nyala to safety, despite her own severe injuries. "Everything all right, Ms. Vasek?" Garrick asked, approaching from behind. Nyala composed her features. "Yes, just ensuring the details are perfect. These soldiers deserve nothing less." "The advance press coverage has been remarkable," Garrick noted. "We have received confirmation from 3 senators, the Secretary of Defense, and numerous high-ranking military officers for the opening ceremony. Security has been a logistical challenge." "I can imagine," Nyala replied, thinking of the additional security measures she had personally arranged without the museum's knowledge. She had positioned her own surveillance systems throughout the building, coordinated with Brielle for undercover agents among the staff, and established evacuation protocols should her suspicions about Corvin prove correct. The night before the exhibition opening, Nyala remained at the museum long after the staff had departed. She moved silently through the dimly lit galleries, checking and rechecking security measures. The exhibition represented not just a memorial for her fallen comrades, but a culmination of her mission, public recognition of what had happened and who was responsible. Her phone vibrated with an encrypted message from Brielle. Still no confirmed sighting of target. Additional security teams in place for tomorrow. Proceed as planned. Nyala acknowledged the message, then continued her patrol. Tomorrow would bring either closure or confrontation. Either way, she was prepared. The opening ceremony of Ghost Battalion, The Untold Story, drew a capacity crowd. Government officials, military personnel, and media representatives filled the grand hall of the Callista Museum. Security was visibly heightened, with uniformed officers at every entrance and plainclothes agents dispersed throughout the crowd. Nyala stood near the podium in a simple black dress, her curator persona firmly in place despite the weight of her concealed sidearm. She had chosen, after careful consideration, to leave her high collars behind. The scars on her neck and upper back were partially visible, not flaunted, but no longer hidden. Secretary of Defense Marshal Thornton approached the podium to begin the ceremony. Today, we acknowledge a debt long overdue. For years, the existence of Ghost Battalion was denied, their sacrifice unrecognized for reasons of national security. Today, we correct that injustice. As he spoke, Nyala scanned the crowd methodically, searching for any sign of Corvin or Lazarus. The facial recognition system she had installed would alert her to their presence, but both men were skilled enough to disguise themselves effectively. The ceremony continued with speeches from military officials and a reading of the names of the fallen. When it came time for Nyala to address the audience as curator, she approached the podium with measured steps. History is written not just in books, but in the lives of those who shape it, she began. Ghost Battalion operated in shadows, asking for no recognition, seeking no glory. They did what was necessary to protect others, often at terrible personal cost. Her eyes swept the room once more, lingering on a man at the back who seemed oddly focused on the emergency exit rather than the ceremony. Something about his posture triggered her instincts. The balanced stance, the constant awareness, the subtle scanning motion of his eyes. Continuing her speech without pause, she pressed a concealed button on the podium, sending an alert to Brielle. The exhibition you will see today tells their story through artifacts and documents, but the true legacy of Ghost Battalion lives in the values they embodied: courage, sacrifice, and unwavering commitment to truth. As she concluded her remarks to applause, Nyala descended from the podium and moved casually toward the suspicious figure. Before she could reach him, the lights in the exhibition hall flickered momentarily, a signal from one of her security measures that an unauthorized entry had been detected in the service corridor. Nyala changed direction immediately, making her way toward the source of the breach while speaking quietly into her concealed communications device. Possible intrusion, South Service Corridor. Maintain ceremony protocols. She slipped through a staff door and moved silently down the empty hallway, drawing her weapon. The museum's regular security cameras had been disabled in this section, not by her, which meant someone else had compromised the system. A shadow moved at the far end of the corridor. Nyala pressed herself against the wall, listening intently. Footsteps approached, 2 sets, moving with deliberate stealth. "The exhibition is a trap," a voice murmured, Lazarus Thorn. "She knew we would come." "Of course she knew," Corvin Sardonyx replied, his tone bitter. "But it changes nothing. My father is facing life imprisonment because of her. Our family name is destroyed. Someone has to pay." "The building is crawling with federal agents," Lazarus warned. "We should abort. After you insisted on running for 6 months, after abandoning everything we built, no. We finish this today." Nyala stepped into the corridor, weapon raised. "It is already finished, Corvin." Both men froze, then slowly turned to face her. Corvin had changed dramatically since their last encounter, thinner, with a ragged beard and hollow eyes. Beside him, Lazarus maintained his professional composure, hands carefully visible, but body tensed for action. "Captain Vasek," Corvin sneered, using her real name. "Or should I still call you Curator? You have played so many roles, it is hard to keep track." "Says the man who pretended to be a legitimate businessman while building a private army," she countered, keeping her weapon trained on them. "Federal agents are surrounding this building. You have nowhere to go." Lazarus shifted his weight subtly. "There is always somewhere to go if you know where to look." "Not this time," came a voice from behind them. Brielle Marchand stood with a tactical team, weapons drawn. Corvin Sardonyx, Lazarus Thorne, you are under arrest for conspiracy, terrorism, and murder. Corvin's expression twisted with rage. This is not justice. My father built an empire that benefited thousands, created jobs, supported communities, all destroyed because of one military operation that went wrong. That operation did not go wrong, Nyala replied calmly. Your father deliberately targeted my unit because we discovered his weapons testing program. 12 good soldiers died because he could not allow the truth to come out. And now the truth is everywhere, Brielle added. Front page news, congressional hearings. Your father is cooperating in exchange for avoiding the death penalty. The color drained from Corvin's face. He would never. He already has, Brielle confirmed. Signed the plea agreement yesterday, named you as a full partner in all operations. Lazarus, ever the pragmatist, slowly raised his hands. This is over, Corvin. There is no play here. For a moment, Nyala thought Corvin might attempt something desperate. His hand twitched toward his jacket, but Lazarus caught his arm. Do not like this. The tactical team moved forward, securing both men with practiced efficiency. As they were led away, Corvin looked back at Nyala with undisguised hatred. This does not end here. Yes, it does, she replied, holstering her weapon. After the arrests, the exhibition opening continued without most attendees ever knowing what had transpired in the service corridors. Nyala resumed her role as curator, guiding visitors through the displays with professional composure while processing what had just occurred. The Sardonyx threat had been neutralized completely. Father and son both in custody. Their criminal empire dismantled. Their political connections exposed. Later that evening, as the crowd thinned and the museum prepared to close, Nyala found herself alone before the memorial wall. The faces of her fallen comrades looked back at her, young, determined, forever frozen in time. You did it, Brielle said, joining her. Justice for Ghost Battalion, recognition for their sacrifice, everything you fought for. Not everything, Nyala replied quietly. Brielle followed her gaze to the photographs. The dead are still dead. I understand. But not all of us died that night, Nyala said. I told you there were 2 others. As if summoned by her words, 2 figures approached from across the gallery. A woman with a distinctive limp, Callista Reeves, now using the name Daria Jarkov, her face altered by subtle surgical changes, but her eyes still fierce and intelligent. Beside her walked a man with a prosthetic hand, Elian Korsh, formerly the unit's communications specialist, now operating under the identity Tarek Nassar. For a moment, the 3 survivors of Ghost Battalion stood in silence before the memorial to their fallen comrades. The museum sent me an invitation, Callista said finally. Very official, very public. Subtle, Elian added with a hint of his old humor. I thought it was time, Nyala replied simply. Brielle observed the reunion with respectful distance before stepping forward. The agency would like to speak with all of you. About reinstatement, about making things right. The 3 exchanged glances, years of shared experience allowing them to communicate without words. Perhaps, Nyala answered for them all, but first, we have our own debriefing to conduct. Brielle nodded, understanding. Take whatever time you need. You have earned it. 6 months later, the exhibition Ghost Battalion, The Untold Story, had become one of the most visited in the museum's history. Schools arranged special tours, veterans came to pay respects, and military historians studied the declassified materials with academic intensity. Nyala continued as curator, finding unexpected satisfaction in preserving history and telling stories that might otherwise be forgotten. The high collars were gone from her wardrobe, her scars no longer a secret to be hidden, but a testament to survival. On a quiet Tuesday afternoon, as she guided a group of visitors through the exhibition, her phone vibrated with a news alert. Corvin Sardonyx found dead in federal custody. Apparent suicide. She completed the tour without reaction, maintaining her professional demeanor until the visitors had moved on to the next gallery. Only then did she check her secure messaging app, where a simple text from Callista waited. It was not suicide, justice complete. That evening, Nyala met her former teammates at a small cafe across town. None of them mentioned Corvin's death directly. Instead, they discussed their future plans, Callista's security consulting firm, Elian's software development work, Nyala's continuing role at the museum. The agency keeps calling, Elian noted, adjusting his prosthetic hand, offering reinstatement, special assignments, generous terms. They need us more than we need them, Callista replied, stirring her coffee. Nyala considered this. Maybe what they need is what we wanted all along. Acknowledgement, accountability, a chance to do good work without being erased afterward. Are you considering it? Elian asked. On our terms, Nyala said firmly. No more shadows. No more disavowals. And we choose our missions. Callista smiled for the first time. Ghost Battalion, reborn in daylight. The three raised their cups in a silent toast to possibilities, to survival, and to the long road that had brought them from that ambushed compound to this moment of quiet victory. Their scars remained, but they were no longer defined by them. Instead, they had transformed them into a foundation for something new,